Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Stephanie. I'm a life and relationship coach. So this week I want to get into codependency, and this is a great topic. I've made, I think, just one other video about it. I mean, I definitely talk about it amongst a lot of my videos on my channel, but I wanted to get into some ways that you can start healing this codependency within yourself. So when we're children, we're definitely codependent in the sense that we're seeking approval. We want to gain mom and dad's love, and mom and dad were supposed to mirror all of these things back to us. This was supposed to create the healthy inner dialogue within ourselves that we would then have for the rest of our lives. So this is you're going to teach your child, the bird how to fly, and the bird leaves the nest. So unfortunately, a lot of us didn't learn how to fly like that in a healthy way. When we got out of the nest, we fell to the bottom of the ground. So now when we're codependent, we are unconsciously seeking validation. We're unconsciously seeking love. We're unconsciously seeking approval from others. And a lot of people are walking around this earth not even knowing that their unconscious beliefs, that their programming is to seek validation, is to seek love. So codependency, people pleasing, it kind of intertwines with each other. So when we're so wrapped up in what's best for everyone else, what can I do for everyone else, and we never bother to ask ourselves, okay, well, what do I need, and what do I feel, and what do I think, and am I getting this, and am I able to set boundaries with people when I'm not getting it? When we can't have that inner dialogue, when we're not curious about what's going on internally within ourselves, that's not healthy self-love, that's not self-care, that's not you being a responsible and healthy adult taking care of your own self. So the fact of the matter is, in order to be a healthy person, you have to be able to have that inner dialogue with yourself. You have to be able to motivate yourself and a lot of other things, but you need to be able to fill yourself up inside. And so when we weren't taught how to do that, and when we were not given the things emotionally that we needed as children, when we were neglected on a lot of levels by our parents, doesn't mean mom and dad were alcoholics, doesn't mean mom and dad beat us, doesn't mean that they were drug addicts. They could have been lovely people, but they weren't able to emotionally connect to us, or at times, just based off of, unfortunately, the way we parent sometimes, or the way society parents, that they weren't able to validate us for everything that we were feeling. So then we would grow up to then be able to validate and honor our own selves and know what we needed in every single moment in order to fill ourselves up inside. So when all of those things happen, it forms codependency within us. So it forms this story or this program within our subconscious that basically says, in order to get love, I have to do this. In order to get love and approval, I need to worry about everyone else and never bother to worry about myself. And perhaps most of your life, you just went off a program and you never even once asked yourself, what do I need? What do I feel? And if you did, you didn't really kind of sit in it and say, okay, this is what I need, and I'm going to stay firm in it. You didn't have that level of self-love, self-confidence in yourself to be able to do that. Perhaps you thought, okay, well, if I assert myself and if I tell people what I think and how I feel, that I have a fear that they'll abandon me, or that I have a fear that this person probably isn't capable of giving me what I need emotionally, or respecting my boundaries, whatever your fears were. And when we live in that place of fear where we don't want to tell people what we think and how we feel, that we recognize, okay, I'm doing something to seek something. I'm doing something to seek that this person will like me or love me or give me the things that I should be giving myself. So when we're at least able to acknowledge that, that's step one. You're, part of the battle has been won. The other part is being able to give that stuff to yourself. So the fact of the matter is, if someone gives you love and approval, or if someone abandons you, at the end of the day, you're left with just yourself. So you have to be able to fill yourself up inside. And filling yourself up inside really has to do with your internal dialogue. It has to do with you being able to self-soothe. It has to do with you being able to validate your own feelings. One of the things that I always tell my clients is, regardless of what you're feeling, you have to validate it. And I do it for myself as well. Even if I feel something, and all of a sudden I can hear myself judging that feeling. Why do you feel that way? You have no right to feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. I immediately block that out because now I know where that's coming from. That's coming from my ego self. I immediately block that out and I say, no, I'm going to love myself. I'm going to self-parent myself and I'm going to validate what it is I'm feeling. So I sit in that feeling. Okay, I feel sad. Okay, I feel disappointed. Okay, I feel angry. Okay, I have this fear that I can feel is starting to come. So I honor that. The next step is actually moving through it in a healthy way, which is feeling it, not suppressing it, and then deciding, how do I want to feel? Do I want to stay stuck in this feeling, or do I want to remind myself of the reality of what is going on in this situation? The reality is that I have a right to feel that way. And that's something that was huge for me. When I began honoring what I felt, that was the step towards healing from codependency. And making it okay to feel what I was feeling and not judging myself for feeling what I was feeling. And when I began to take responsibility for my life and I said, you know what, my happiness is my responsibility. It's not someone else's responsibility to give me love. It's not someone else's responsibility to validate what I'm feeling. It's not someone else's responsibility to be okay with what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. You know, not everyone has to agree with the way you feel. And again, that was something that was really huge for me. When I didn't need anyone's validation anymore, when I didn't need someone to agree with me, and that was okay, that someone didn't agree with me. That was a huge, you just feel freer with that because you're not so constricted on everyone else liking you, and that no one had to like me, no one had to agree with me because I love myself. I was taking care of myself and I knew that my happiness was my responsibility. It's very liberating to live in that world. And that's where your happiness really comes from, because that happiness that you're gaining, you're given to yourself. That's you filling your own cup up. So now if you struggle with saying no, if you struggle with creating boundaries and knowing how to enforce them, if you struggle, and this was something I struggled with for years, if you struggle with the need to fix people, the need to solve people's problems. So when someone tells you a problem, you take it on like it's yours and here you go out the door. Okay, how are we gonna tackle this? How are we gonna fix it? If everyone's problems became your problems, that's definitely a sign of codependency. It doesn't mean that we don't love and care about our friends and family. It just means that at a certain point, you stop and you realize that it's not your job to overexert yourself, to put someone else's needs and wants ahead of your own. If you feel that need, that perfectionism, if you live in that perfectionism world, if you feel the need that everything has to be perfect, that's definitely a sign of codependency. That's definitely a sign of, with a perfectionist, that underlining story that's being told is, if everything's perfect, if I'm perfect, if I make the right decisions, I won't feel pain, everyone will like me, I'll have the happiness that I want, I'll get the love that I want because I'm doing the right thing, I'm a good girl, I'm doing the right thing, and that'll give me love, that'll give me approval, that'll give me validation from people. Definitely neglecting your own wants and needs. So this is a situation where if someone asks you to do something, you don't even ask yourself whether or not you want to do it. You just do it. Or if you do ask yourself, you know you don't want to do it, but you do it anyways. My point is if majority of the time you're doing things that you don't want to be doing, that is a sign of codependency. The fear of someone leaving you, the fear of abandonment goes hand in hand with codependency. So when we fear that if someone leaves us that we won't be okay, and the reason why we have that fear of abandonment is because we've been abandoned, and usually it was by one of our parents. It could have been a physical abandonment, it could have been an emotional abandonment. And when we had that abandonment where dad was supposed to do this, dad was supposed to be here, mom was supposed to allow me to feel what I'm feeling and sit in a space for me, and maybe one or both of them weren't able to do that, that fear of someone doing the same thing to us, of giving us that letdown, happens time and time again as we become adults. And then that forms codependency, because if I fear you leaving, and I don't think that I'm going to be okay if you leave, if I don't know how to love myself, if I don't know how to give myself the stuff that I need to give myself in order for me to be a healthy, emotionally healthy, mature adult that takes responsibility for their life, if I'm not that adult, and I fear everyone leaving me, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that no one leaves me. I'm gonna put up with bad behavior, I'm gonna put up with abuse, I'm gonna put up with neglect, I'm gonna allow people to walk all over me, I'm gonna allow people to, tiptoe on violating my boundaries, and I just don't really say anything. So you're not going to have the self-confidence in yourself to stand up and say, hey, this is what I need out of a relationship. And if you can't give it, that's totally fine. Then you need to leave my life. And then I'm okay if you leave, because I know how to take care of myself. There's nothing that I'm seeking from you that I'm not already giving myself. I want you in my life. I love you. I care about you, but my happiness comes first. And it's a two-way street in this relationship. So how do we heal codependency? Number one, you have to know what you want. You have to know what you want. You have to know how you feel. And you have to be okay in the beginning stages of this to feel very uncomfortable with telling people what you want and what you think. So in the beginning, when I started saying, okay, I'm going to validate myself. What do I want? How do I feel? And I'm going to honor every single bit of me that wants to do this or doesn't want to do this, or this is what I think, and I was going to honor that. I was going to stand up for myself no matter what anyone else thought. I had to be okay that it was extremely uncomfortable for me to sit in that space. It was uncomfortable for me to stand up for myself like that, because I got a ton of backlash from people in my life because they weren't used to this person. So in the beginning, you have to know what you want. You have to know what you're feeling. You have to get in touch with yourself. And that's you loving yourself. That's you becoming your own best friend. Most codependents lack that healthy narcissism. To some extent, that's healthy, because that means that you're putting yourself first. And you have to put yourself first in life. That's you taking care of yourself. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, what have you. So a lot of codependents lack that ability to be selfish in that way. And when I say selfish, I mean that in the most self-loving way that I can say it. You putting yourself first. It's just like when we're on the airplane and they say you have to put your mask on first. You have to take care of yourself above everyone else. And as much as I love my son, and majority of the time he does come first, there are times where mom has to come first, because mom has to take care of her own self, because if I don't, I can't take care of anyone else. One of the last things that's so important towards codependency recovery is letting go the need to fix others. And again, this was a huge stepping stone in my own recovery, and even now I still struggle with it. I still struggle when someone, I hear a problem or I see someone struggling with something. I feel the need to come in. And part of that is codependency, but a real part of it now that I've healed so much of that codependency within myself is just me being empathetic. I'm so highly empathetic that it's easy for me to hear someone's problems and I want to dive in and just save the day. I want to help you because I want everyone to live a great life, right? That's me feeling someone's pain and not wanting them to sit in that space. But a huge part of my recovery was understanding that everyone's on their own journey. And your journey, your sister's journey, your boyfriend's journey, your mom's journey, whoever's journey, that's their journey. That's the things that they need to learn in life. And you can't force someone to learn lessons, and you can't fix everyone's problems and they're still going to be happy. And that's something that I always struggled with, was I always looked at it like, wow, I'm helping you and you're still not happy. Or I'm doing all of this to make everything good in your life because these are all the things that you're miserable about or complaining about, and you're still not happy. And so I think at that point was when I started turning over a new way of thinking, and that no matter what I did, I couldn't make someone happy. I couldn't make someone love me. And when I accepted that, it was freeing, because it allowed me to not feel the need to fix everyone. And that now when I know I'm going too far and I'm like, okay, Steph, you're doing too much, it's not your problem, I can seek that now. I know that within my own self that, okay, I'm going too far and I need to take a step back. Years ago, I would get to the point of just exhaustion, where I was so exhausted from doing and doing and doing, and then it became angry and bitter and resentful when people didn't do the same for me, or when someone still wasn't happy, and that I always felt like, God, no matter what I do, it's still not good enough, when it wasn't my problem to begin with. And I couldn't be resentful of someone else when I was the one that was going and trying to save the day. And I was the one that was willing to not put my own self first. So I couldn't be mad at anyone else. I can only take responsibility for myself. And those are huge, huge golden nuggets, takeaways, whatever, towards real recovery. Is you have to have the self-awareness as to when are you tiptoeing in that codependency. And the first thing you always have to do is, like I said, ask yourself, how do I feel? In every single moment, how do I feel? What do I want? What do I think? When you start asking yourselves those questions, that's self-care, that's self-love, that's you taking responsibility for your own life. When the answers start coming up and it gets a little bit uncomfortable, to say, okay, I'm gonna have to express myself to someone. I'm gonna have to set a boundary. I'm gonna have to enforce this boundary. That's where the real work comes in. But for this video, I wanted to give you some insight on how to spot these codependency behaviors that you have in yourself that sometimes we're not even aware of. It's just our autopilot taking over, and we're just living life and we're not aware that we're actually walking around with unhealthy behaviors and habits. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you want to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. If you don't want to miss any videos, don't forget to click on the notification bell. That will inform you every time I do upload a new video. If you have any topics on videos that you yourself are struggling with that you would like for me to cover, please comment down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next week.